Star Trek, one of the most iconic franchises in existence. From William Shatner's James T. Kirk to Patrick Stewart's Jean-Luc Picard, Captain Sisko of Deep Space Nine, and to Captain Janeway of Voyager, the franchise has endured with many generations that have been endeared by the deep space exploration story. There had not been a theatrical Star Trek release since 2002's Star Trek Nemesis, in which this saw the final cinematic outing of the crew of the Enterprise E and Picard's crew. Gene Roddenberry had expressed an interest in making a prequel to the series as early as the late 60s, and it's a concept that resurfaced in the 80s. Abrams said in an interview that he did not watch Nemesis and felt like the franchise had disconnected from the original series. To him, Star Trek was about Kirk and Spock, and the other series of movies just had the Star Trek name attached to them. Abrams went into making this movie wanting to make this something that everyone could enjoy and hired Robert Orci and Alec Kurtzman to write the script. I think it was Robert Orci who corrected people and said he was a Trekker and not a Trekkie, as people had the wrong term. Now, you're in a dicey situation as the original series continuity had never been rebooted before, as many fans, writers, actors and directors consider the original series lore as sacred. But then again, this is modern Hollywood, reboots are a thing. So, how would a 21st century take on the original crew fare after 15 years? Time to find out as we boldly go back to Star Trek.
Let's punch it.
Emotion, action, and heart. These are three elements that can best describe this movie. I went into this open-minded in May 2009 as I was always a casual fan of Star Trek, but if I had to have a preference, then it would be Next Generation. That's my Enterprise. But how do you make a reboot of one of the most iconic crews of Starfleet? Sure, there have been discussions on YouTube videos, topics on message boards over the decades, but to actually sit down and pitch an idea to Paramount, hey, we're going to take one of your biggest cash cows and hit the reset button, is something big. Abrams went into making this movie wanting to make this movie that everyone could enjoy and hired Robert Orci and Alec Kurtzman to write the script. Now, I've had my issues with these two writers for various movies in the past, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 notwithstanding, but in the writing for this flick, it was decent. When the action gets going, it rarely slows down. You get an understanding of who the characters are very quickly. You see that future Thor actor Chris Hemsworth has heart and character in sacrificing himself to save his wife and his newborn son, James Tiberius Kirk, after encountering an aggressive encounter with Captain Nero and his Romulan ship, Nanarada, that made short work of the USS Kelvin like it was all you could eat at Pizza Hut. We see time skips in the movie that show Kirk and Spock, respectively, dealing with their issues growing up, with Kirk being a rebellious preteen that steals his stepdad's Corvette and has the worst ringtone ever. Ugh, really, even in the 23rd century we still can't escape that abomination. To Spock dealing with discrimination just because his Vulcan father married his human mother. This is revisited when he's invited to join the Vulcan Science Academy but rejects it when they highlight his human mother is a disadvantage, and leaves with probably the most venomous polite goodbye ever.
Live long and prosper.
Dress it up all you want to, but what he was really saying was this: F you. Not to get petty and or trivial, but it's just one of those proverbial lines in the sand that you don't cross. As soon as you bring someone's mother into it, kiss civility goodbye. After a pep talk from Captain Christopher Pike and being inspired by the construction of the USS Enterprise in a shipping yard on Earth, which I found a little odd as I was on the understanding that starships were constructed in space. Oh well, new timeline, new rules, I guess.
Charges, right?
Oh yeah, I can't wait to kick some Romulan ass.
Folks, you already know how this poor schmuck's fate will go. Nero, being Nero, Revenge Incarnate, seeks to destroy Vulcan and wants Spock to be present to witness it, and despite the success in re-establishing communications by disabling the drill, Nero succeeds in sending the red matter to the planet's core, and Spock succeeds in saving most of Vulcan's important cultural people. The transporter is not able to relock onto his mother's coordinates. Chekhov had been successful in beaming Kirk and Sulu up whilst they were free falling from the platform, but could not catch lightning in a bottle, and this moment is a pivotal moment in the movie, as it is highlighted later by Kirk why Spock is not fit for duty as captain, which is something that Spock Prime had instructed this timeline's Kirk to do as he was emotionally compromised after seeing his planet destroyed.
Jim, I just lost my planet. I can tell you, I am emotionally compromised.
The third act is an emotional roller coaster in not just action, but what the characters go through. Spock in confronting the enemy that took his mother and his world from him, Kirk stepping up as the stand-in captain as he had been made first officer by Pike much earlier in the movie, and fulfilling his destiny as the captain of the Enterprise and being the maverick of space by trusting his instincts in order to succeed, which leads to one of the best escapes from a black hole after Nero decides to 86 out of the plot on not wanting the indignity of being saved by people he despised. The movie ends with Kirk assuming the role of captain permanently, decked out in the iconic golden jersey, and Spock remaining aboard as his first officer and beginning the ship's mission into deep space. What I take away from this reboot, alternate timeline, reimagining is that it's very faithful to the source material but modernizing it to the point that fans established and new can appreciate it. And that's a modern adaptation done right. When your predecessor is William Shatner, then you have some major big shoes to fill. What I think made sense for Chris's portrayal of the iconic Star Trek captain is that he doesn't try to mimic Shatner. There are still the nuances of Shatner's leap first instinct, but Pine looked to Tom Cruise's movies of Days of Thunder and Top Gun for inspiration, and I do see that influence. Cruise has that don't think, just do mentality, and that works so well for this incarnation of Captain Kirk. When I saw the first official press photo of him as Spock, I swore blind I was looking at Leonard Nimoy as a young man. Not just from physical behaviours of head tilts and raised eyebrows, but to the pitch and cadence in his vocal delivery. I think what got me and several others was this moment.
Then why did you send Kirk aboard when you alone could have explained the truth?
Because you needed each other. I could not deprive you of the revelation of all that you could accomplish together, of a friendship that will define you both.
I guess that's another way of getting in touch with yourself. I swear they could have not cast anyone better in this role as the pedantic and overdramatic medical physician of the Enterprise. And being the mimic actor that Urban is, he studied Forrester Kelly's performance as Bones to really get the cadence and tone in his delivery, especially with this.
My God, man, you could at least act like it was a hard decision. Green-blooded hobgoblin.
She did Nichelle Nichols proud with this performance. She knew when to be tough and when to be supportive, especially when she was comforting Spock. That was a slight surprise, as I don't think Spock and Uhura were an item in the original series. True story here. J.J. Abrams emailed Pegg and asked him if he wanted the role of Scotty, of which Pegg thought he was being pranked, and then Abrams assured him that this was on the level. He developed his Scottish accent through his wife, whom is Glaswegian, and when you hear Pegg's delivery, it sounds authentic. Not someone whom I would have automatically cast, and yet after hearing him as Scotty, I'd cast him every single time. The late actor puts in a great performance as the ship's communications officer and a scientific prodigy, as he's able to lock on to people to beam up if they're not stationary. He adopted Walter Koenig's speech patterns from the original series and the subsequent theatrical sequels that followed. Abrams was hesitant to cast a Korean-American actor playing a Japanese character, but George Takei assured him that Sulu represented all of Asia on the Enterprise, so John was cast as Sulu. John does not have as many speaking lines as the rest of the crew, but he plays his part well with what he's given. I was not expecting this twist in the theatre when he was revealed when he lowered his hood on the ice planet. His presence had been teased earlier in the movie, but to actually see him on film was very rewarding, and even though he had probably not played Spock in nearly 20 years at this time, He stepped right back into character, and the chemistry between him and his young counterpart in Zachary Quinto was a treat to behold. A man of few words, gets on with the job, total badass. His presence is that of a commanding one, and you believe his delivery and body language. This is a legitimate captain of the USS Enterprise. And he delivers one of the best motivational lines.
Your father was captain of a starship for 12 minutes.
He saved 800 lives, including your mother's and yours.
I dare you to do better.
I think it's safe to say that Banner found something to do in the late 2000s that made people forget about his time as the Hulk. His performance as Nero is a cold, calculating, and unforgiving force when he makes it his mission to make the Federation pay for what happened to Romulus, holding Spock responsible even though he did his damnedest with the red matter to try and save Romulus from an exploding star. I normally don't have this category too often, but I felt it was applicable for this review. The set of the bridge on this incarnation of the original Enterprise is just amazing. This very glossy, clean, futuristic look of the bridge is clearly modern, but also paying respect to what has gone before. Heck, if I had a starship, I would have a fusion of this with the bridge of the Enterprise D. Whoever's watching this and does render mock-ups, I want a picture of that. When you have a budget of $150 million for a visual effects movie, you have to spend your budget accordingly. For me, this is a modern Star Trek movie done right. You have the suspension of disbelief that this is really taking place in outer space, and the look of the battles, especially when the Enterprise reaches Vulcan and you can see the debris field in Vulcan's orbit, makes you believe that Nero's ship laid waste to several Federation starships. There are nice audio cues to the original series when you see beaming on and off the ship. The original sounds of beaming are within the sound effects, but added with additional aesthetics to make it sound more modern and probably a sense of realism, as this is what it would sound like if someone was being taken apart molecule by molecule and then being reassembled at the beaming's intended destination. And it's the same thing with the communicators. They sound more or less as they did in the original series. And I couldn't talk about effects without mentioning the old girl herself, USS Enterprise NCC 1701. What is remarkable about this incarnation is that it's very faithful at its core by Matt Jeffries' original design, but it has elements added from other movies with the Aztec paint scheme and the enlarged engine nacelles. Abrams desired this to the Starship equivalent of a hot rod. It certainly was that. Not sure if this comes under the effects department, but the shaky cam filming bothered me. But I think modern audiences have had enough of this filming style, and this is something that gets carried over into Star Trek Picard, especially in Season 3. So aside from the minor discrepancy, the effects are amazing. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest that Michael Giacchino would be at the helm to craft the score for this picture. I have been adamant since the Jurassic World trilogy that this man is a worthy successor to John Williams, as he not only studies the source material of his predecessors and carries over the feel of their work, but he's able to put his own stamp on it. Probably the best pieces of work are not only with the title reveal, but the reveal of the Enterprise herself, and to the ending where you hear an updated version of the original series theme, but with his twist whilst the iconic words are being narrated by the late Leonard Nimoy.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
Star Trek grossed a worldwide profit of $385.7 million against its budget of $150 million. 15 years later, in 2024, that take-home profit would now be worth $562.7 million. Ty Burr of the Boston Globe gave the film a perfect 4-star rating, describing it as ridiculously satisfying and the best prequel ever. Manola Dargis of the New York Times wrote, "Star Trek isn't just a pleasurable rethink of your geek uncle's favorite science fiction series, it's also a testament to television's power as myth maker, as a source for some of the fundamental stories we tell about ourselves, who we are, and where we came from. The chemistry between Pine and Quinto was well received by critics. Gleiberman felt that the film progressed to the conclusion Pine and Quinto emulated the same connection as Kirk and Spock. Tim Roby of The Telegraph echoed similar attitudes. The movie charts their relationship in a nicely oblique way. Roby resumed, "It's the main event, dramatically speaking, but there's always something more thumpingly urgent to command their attention, whether it's a Vulcan distress signal or the continuing rampages of those pesky Romulans." Roger Ebert of the Chicago Times stated that the Gene Roddenberry years, when stories might play with questions of science, ideals, or philosophy, have been replaced by stories reduced to loud and colourful action. Ebert ultimately gave the film 2.5 out of 4 stars. Time Out London's Tom Huddleston praised the aesthetic qualities of the film, such as the design of the Enterprise, and praised the performances of the cast. He wrote, "The cast are equally strong. Quinto brings wry charm to the otherwise calculating character, while Pine powers through his performance in bullish, if not quite Shatner-esque fashion." The movie would be followed with 2 sequels in 2013's Into Darkness that featured Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan, and 2016's Beyond, which was the last movie to feature Anton Yelchin as Chekhov, as he unfortunately passed away after the filming was complete. The movie is dedicated to his memory along with Leonard Nimoy, who also sadly passed before filming began. Star Trek has been treasured since 2009 on DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K. I'm MJ Knight, and we went back into space for Star Trek.
I don't currently have a bad guy. I am fighting a few different people. What? I like to fight around.
Wait, whoa, hold up a minute. Did he just make a sex joke and get away with it in a family-rated movie?
Damn!
This movie is a satirical masterpiece. It pays so much homage and respect to the lineage of the character whilst also playing up the over-the-top Chuck Norris-styled humor that has been applied to Bats over the years. He can do pretty much anything. He has backup plans to backup plans, he has vehicles for all purposes, and playing on the tropes over the dark, brooding nature that'll make Shadow the Hedgehog look modest. By the way, looking forward to Sonic 3 at the time of making this. Keanu Reeves for the win. I know you're gonna crush this role. The way the Joker in the beginning was mentioning off members of the Rogues Gallery from himself, Riddler, Catwoman, Two-Face, and highlighting the sometimes absurd nature of some, including even lesser known villains such as Egghead and Condiment King.
And the Condiment King!
Okay, are you making some of those up?
Nope, they're all real. Probably worth the Google.
You heard the man. And surprisingly, the story plays with this idea of an implied bromance between Bats and Joker was amusing, as this has been the subject of memes for years. Even Joker getting heated when Bats says,
I don't currently have a bad guy. I am fighting a few different people. What? I like to fight around.
Wait, whoa, hold up a minute. Did he just make a sex joke and get away with it in a family-rated movie?
Damn!
Also, I cannot talk about this movie without mentioning Batman's first appearance, as he pulls the veil of disguise away from posing as the mayor and giving rise to arguably one of the most over-the-top musical performances about the character. incorporating some elements from the 60s Batman thing, and here comes what is my fave piece of the song.
Ladies, it's okay if you stare. Why?
I remember sitting in the audience of February 2017 and thought, this is going to be special. And boy, I was not wrong. It's just another aspect of this movie that just nailed the satirical approach to the character. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't highlight these.
Kayak! It's the Bat Doom Buggy! It's the Bat... Shark repellent?
Actually, you can't touch that.
Now, I understand this next piece, but you didn't need to do Stark dirty like this.
What is the password?
Iron Man sucks.
Thank you.
Furthermore,
I got an idea. Rip! It's better. Now I'm free. Now I'm moving. Come on, Batman. Let's get grooving.
no one needed to see that.
This.
Hi, police lady.
Is that your son?
Yes, I am.
No, that's just weird.
It's weirder if it's not your son.
Babs, people have been saying this for decades. Thought it was interesting that Bat would highlight lyrics from Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, still a great song to this day, and then claim it was him. But again, this is satire, so you go with the flow. To the point, arguably, one of the most fun experiences watching a Batman movie. It's satirical, over the top, and all-out fun with some good lessons being taught, but not shoved down your throat whatsoever. Kind of refreshing too. For the way the character is portrayed, they could have not cast anyone better. Arnett was a joy to listen to in the first Lego movie, and so for him to reprise his role and have more expansive material to play with just left him with more opportunities to play with as this over-the-top jock comedic type of role that Bat is occasionally portrayed as. There are times you kind of feel bad for the clown prince of crime, when Bat is not reciprocating his feelings of bromance, and you feel hurt in not only Zach's voice, but also the way the animators portray him with a look of crush on his face. Now, some will go into this, making comparisons to Cesar Romero, Kevin Michael Richardson, a highly underrated incarnation I might add, Mark Hamill, Heath Ledger, and the GOAT himself, Jack Nicholson. My advice? Go in open-minded. Zach is playing the Joker his way, and honestly, it works. It's just this idea of him trying to get Bat jealous and actually acknowledging him as his arch nemesis after Bat burns him initially and states that Supes is his mortal enemy. Could not have cast anyone better. That is a single statement to make about this man's performance as essentially the surrogate father figure to the Dark Knight. Fiennes carries himself with the dignity and dry wit, good taste, reminiscent from the likes of the late Michael Gough, who played Alfred in the Burton Schumacher years. Rosario is one of those voice acting talents that carries a lot of power and gravitas in her voice. Those that have heard her as Wonder Woman in the Justice League animated movies and her role as Kokoro in Terminator Zero will know just how versatile and talented she is with her performances. As Babs and Batgirl, you buy her performance succeeding her on-screen father as Gotham Police Commissioner and finally donning her cape and cowl as Batgirl. I had some initial concerns with Sarah playing Robin, as I remember seeing him as Scott Pilgrim and found his titular role jarring due to how irritating he was. But as Dick Grayson, you believe the innocent sincerity in wanting to earn Bats' trust and admiration. This took me by surprise, as I didn't even know until after the movie that she was the mayor. For the less than coffee break appearance she has, she makes use of it. Zoe Kravitz portrayed Catwoman, of which she would go on to reprise that role in 2022's The Batman, and Billy D. Williams reprises his incarnation of Harvey Dent from the Burton era had he become Two-Face. Animal Logic, Maya, and Soft Image were hired to do the animation for the movie, and it just made such a fun experience. The lighting and shading off of Batman's cowl in the opening scene and the way his eyes would glow is just one of the reasons why the detail really helps this movie shine, including some of the more intimate moments where Bat is reminiscing in front of the family portrait, and the glow of the fireplace off of the wooden decor just helps to really give the various tones and moods of the movie. I did like the visual cues to various Batman movies and TV shows over the years in Lego form, including Batman 89, Batman the Animated Series, The Dark Knight, but for the 60s TV series they just had Adam West performing the Bat-2C. Lorne Balfe was hired to be the composer for this picture, and given his credits ranging from Megamind, Ghost in the Shell, and Top Gun 2 Maverick, then you know you're getting value for money. Considering the nice little member berry that he leaves in the movie when Batman and Robin arrive at the Fortress of Solitude, and he's playing the very score from the first Christopher Reeve Superman movie when Clark arrives at the North Pole.
Okay, like all super...
I mentioned this earlier, but this is a real nice touch. The movie took in a profit of $312 million against a budget of $80 million. In 2024, that take-home profit would now be worth $396.4 million. Justin Chang of the Los Angeles Times was positive in his review, saying, "In its best moments, this gag-a-minute bat roast serves as a reminder that, in the right hands, a sharp comic scalpel can be an instrument of revelation as well as ridicule." Mike Ryan of Uprocks gave it a very positive review. "The Lego Batman movie isn't the same experience as watching the Lego movie, but I also don't think it's trying to be. It's trying to be a fun superhero movie with clever callbacks to previous Batman films. Every single Batman movie all the way back to the 1940s serials are referenced. That can, at least, provide DC superhero fans with a taste of fun amidst all the doom and gloom. That can either be a reference to the real world or the current DC Cinematic Universe films. You can choose either one you want, or both. And at that, the Lego Batman movie succeeds." Michael O'Sullivan of the Washington Post praised the film for its heart, humor, and action, which, quote, "snapped together with a satisfying click." There was a planned sequel, but these hopes were dashed when the second Lego movie underperformed in 2019, and Universal Studios acquired the rights to the Lego movie franchise in 2020, ending any chance of a sequel. The movie has been enjoyed since 2017 on DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K. I'm MJ Knight, and this was the Lego Batman movie.
Before there was a team, there was the first Avenger. Real Features goes all the way back to the origin of Steve Rogers. Captain America, the first Avenger, coming soon, only on Real Features.